What's up, guys? Charles from Team COG coming at you guys here with a Crystron deck profile. I showed you guys on the community tab that I was going to do this. This is one of the decks I decided to pick up ever since I got my invite to kind of tinker with, and this deck is really crazy. Like, the skill level of this deck is phenomenal. Like, I'm nowhere even close to mastering it by any means, but I really enjoy the deck. I thought I'd showcase it to you. I've really wanted to play the deck ever since Solfafnir came out, so we're just going to jump into it. Before I continue on, before we dive bomb into this, remember, guys, check out our sponsors, GameTime's Cards and Collectibles. Link will be in the description below. And also check out our other sponsors, OPHIDIAN Games and Accessories. Use our code COG5 to get 5% off their mats there. They have these beautiful mats in different colors. And then also use our code COG10 on GameTime's Cards and Collectibles to get 10% off a Crystron deck if you want it. Also, before I continue, I'm just trying to use some natural light today. Oh, it's kind of a nice day, so if the video is kind of dark, I kind of apologize. It shouldn't be that dark. You should still be able to see. My lighting was given bad glares due to the room, so I decided to just go all natural. So anyway, let's just jump into the profile. We play 3 Solfafnir. So for all you guys who are new to Crystron's not a very popular deck by any means, but it's a very interesting and very high skill level and big brain deck. One of the reasons why I wanted to pick it up and play it. Crystron's all have the same effects minus the tuners that they, when they're summoned, they can use their effect, except for Solfafnir. Solfafnir's on summon. He can destroy a card and then summon a Crystron monster from his deck, from the deck. So like that's his effect. You pitch any Crystron card to summon him. And then for the next best Crystron, in my opinion, is Crystron Parsatortle. This guy's effect is similar to Solfafnir, but essentially it says once per turn you can target a card on the field, destroy it, special summon 1 Crystron tuner from your deck. And then that's the effect that they all share, so I'm not going to continue to say that they all do that, because all the Crystrons do that. But each of them have different banish effects in the graveyard. You can banish a Parsatortle to special summon a Crystron from your hand. Continuing on, 3 Thiswervin. He's the Rhoda of the deck. Banish him to search any Crystron card. Try to get these straight down for you guys here. And then you can also play 3 Smyger. Smyger allows you to search any Crystron spell and traps, and we only have Crystron trap. The levels matter. Parsatortle is really important because of the level 2. Essentially, this deck is really good for synchroing during your opponent's turn. It's a very reactive but not proactive deck, if that's what I'm trying to say. And then 1 Crystron Rose next. It's a special summons a token. It's really good for the Gen X Undyne engine, especially when we get Crystron Halifibrax. I think that's the TCG name. It will allow you to essentially, Gen X Undyne is a 1-card Needle Fiber or Halifibrax, thanks to Rosenex. But this is all the Crystrons you play. This is all the Crystron non-tuners you play. They all, like I said, share the effect to summon a Crystron tuner from the deck, except for Solfafnir, who can summon any Crystron from the deck. Moving on, I'll showcase the tuners. We play 3 Citri. Citri is the best one. All the tuners have this effect that during your opponent's main phase or battle phase, you can target a Crystron or a non-tuner monster in certain places. Citri is the graveyard. Special summon a machine type monster for that turn. Special summon synchro summon a machine type synchro monster using the cards you summon. So essentially, Citri plus the turtle equal Quandax, and then Quandax is like, he's the busted one. But yeah, Citri allows you to summon from the grave. Rion here is the next best one. Allows you to summon from the banished. And then Quan allows you to summon from the hand. So these are the only 5 you play. You never want to see these guys in your hand. That's why we kind of play a small ratio of them. You always want to see, like, you really want to just see Solfafnir, but you never want to see the tuners in your hand. You want to summon them from the deck. So that's why we play certain cards to put them back into the deck so that we can see them. But these are the tuners. These guys allow you to synchro on your opponent's turn, which is the deck's main strategy. It's not really a go second OTK or a build a unstoppable board. It's a reactive deck to disrupt your opponent during their turns by banishing cards with Kyrion Quandax or like bouncing cards with the Moonlight and Starlight Junction. It's a very, how do you put it? Like I said, reactive deck to your opponent's plays. And like this deck is very prominent for Black Rosing during your opponent's turn, so you wait for your opponent. You wait for your opponent to commit, and it's really, not only do you have to like understand like what your Crystrons do, but you have to also understand like what your opponent's deck does. Like, I mean, like, you gotta, like, if you just Black Rose them at the start of the gate, most decks can play through that, but if you wait till like the pivotal point in their combo sequence, and then you Black Rose them, they really can't recover. And like Black Rose is just like at the bare minimum, like playtesting this deck, like the bare minimum, like even on some of my worst hands that I've messed up because I'm still learning the deck, I can still scavenge out a Black Rose. So then you just gotta like time it perfectly. However, upon playtesting against Math Mechs and certain OTK strategies, Kaijus, as a Kaiju is a problem to every boss monster, if they get rid of the tuner that you end your turn on, you're in a tough pickle because then you can't play during your opponent's turn and you can essentially get walked pretty easy. The deck has a very particular grind game to it. I have noticed that you run through Quandax here quite a bit, so you want to like max out on Quandax and also be very careful with him in the sense of like you're not just spamming out your 3 carelessly. There's certain cards like Pumplin I'm gonna change in the deck to help compensate for that. So, but anyway, 3 Scrap Recycler. This was played in this deck way before Orcus came out. It's just send any machine. If you guys didn't notice, outside of even the tuners are machines, all of them are machines, so you can send pretty much Solfefnir, which is like the main thing you want to send if you don't already have him in your hand. But he's really good. He gets your engine going. 3 Undyne and 1 controller. Undyne in itself is a full combo for Needle Fiber or Helifibrex, excuse me. But right now it just allows you to dump Solfefnir, and it is a cost to dump, I do believe. So that means like if they ash it, you just don't get the controller, but you dump the Solfefnir, which is okay. 2 Mathematician. I was playing this at 3. This is one of the minor changes I did make. I cut it down to 2 since I'm playing 3/3. Mathematician is the worst out of these 3 because it requires you to send level 4 lower, so you cannot send Solfefnir. But yeah, so these are all the engine you play for dumping cards. You play a total of 8 of them. And like I said, Undyne is like a full card combo, a full Helifibrex, gosh, combo when we get it. But that's it for the dumpings. That's what I'll call them, the dumping guys. Moving on to the spells, you play 3 Junction. So what this card does is allow you to discard a card, sack or tribute a tuner to add a Synchron or Junk Synchron. We don't use that effect. We use the effect of if you Synchro Summon during your opponent's turn, you can bounce a card from their field to the deck. So Junction's really good. I'm playing Metaverse within the deck to kind of beam this out during my opponent's turn for more of a disruption, surprise factor. However, I think going in the future, I'm going to end up cutting a Junction down and cutting the Metaverse and putting in a Terraforming, just playing 2 Junction, 1 Terraforming. Just because in multiples this card's bad, you really want to see extenders, and that's where I'll probably put in certain cards like Deep Sea Fissure or Magnet Reverse so that I can bring back the Quandax to continue playing on. And Deep Sea Fissure, I believe, is just is like a really crazy extender in the deck. So yeah. 3 Call by the Grave. This card, you have to play it. If they ash Solfefnir, ash any of your Crystrons, you don't get a tuner from the deck. And also, it's just a good card to end on top of the disruptions you have going first, because this card is such a proactive and reactive card, and an aggressive and defensive card. But yeah, that's it of the 3-Os. We're playing 2 more Ray of Greed. So I was playing Pot of Desires because that hard +1 was really needed. However, I caught so many times in testing, I was opening or drawing into, where are they at? The tuners, and you don't want these tuners in your hand. So by playing more Ray of Greed, you just have the ability to put back the tuners and draw into further extenders such as Undyne, Recycler, Mathematician. Solfefnir is really what you want to dig into if you don't already have them, or like other cards. So that's why we play Moray over Desires, because if you don't have, one time I used Desires, drew into essentially 4 of my tuners, and it was 3 Citri and I think Rion, so I was only able to summon Quan from my deck, and that was just awful. It was miserable. So I'd much rather play Moray of Greed to shuffle back those tuners and potentially draw into some of the more non-tuner Crystron monsters. Monster Reborn, it's a sacking one of. Like I said, I would probably try to fit in 1 or 2 Magnet Reverse just so I can bring back Quandax for the grinding game. And yeah. 1 Foolish, it's essentially another way to get Solfefnir to the graveyard, and pretty much get any of them to the graveyard so you can proc off their effects, like Thiswervin to search the Solfefnir, or Persitortle to summon out a tuner from your deck so you can synchro during your turn. It just all depends what you want. That's it for the spells. So yeah. Going on to the traps, we're playing 3 impacts. This is the only well, there is another trap called Entry, but I don't think it's that good. It requires too much setup. But essentially you get this off of Smyger, wherever Smyger's at. There you go. You get this off of Smyger, and this card just says it's actually pretty good. It's not once per turn. You can, at least I don't believe it's once per turn. Allow me to read that before it is not once per turn. but you have the ability to flip it over and summon one of your banished Crystrons, which allows you to make bigger synchro pushes. And then if your opponent has any monsters that are in defense position, you can change their defense to 0. And the most important effect is the effect of not the turn that it's sent to the graveyard. If an opponent uses an effect that targets a Crystron monster, you just banish it, negate that effect, and destroy it. So it's the best, in my opinion, the best Crystron trap we got. And one metaverse to beam out the Starlight Junction, which I will probably cut going on in the future. On to the extra deck, which is so tight that I'm still fooling around with it. Please if there's any Crystron veterans out there watching this, let me know what you guys would change. Let me know your guys' opinion, because like I said, I don't even think I've skimmed the surface of the deck personally. There's so many combos, so many sequences that I have yet to discover and go down. So if there's some of your veterans out there that play the deck, let me know and comment down below. But we're playing 3 Quandacks. I've seen builds play 2, and I think that's totally incorrect. And I could get playing 2 now, but when Needle Fiber or Halifibrex comes out, you have to play 3 of this card, because this card is essentially like, this is like the first thing you go into all the time. So like if you're cut down playing 3 of it, your grind game's gone, and there's no way to put these guys back into the deck. So like you're forced to you run out of resources. So that's why I think it's mandatory to play 3. What this guy does is he allows you to synchro summon during your opponent's turn using monsters you control, and you can synchro summon into anything. He does not restrict you to machines, only the little tuners, they restrict you to summoning machines with their material. This guy just lets you synchro for Black Rose, Trishula, Hieron Quandrax, Starlight, Black Rose, I already said Black Rose, Moonlight, you name it. So he's the most important in my opinion. We're playing 1 Emistrix just for the ability to make Crystron Phoenix. Back in the day when before Master Rule 4, we had the ability to make 2 of these and overlay and make Infinity, but now we can't do that because of Master Rule 4. I mean, we really can't do that because of Master Rule 4, so this is the worst one of them all. It's just a stepping stone to get to Phoenix. It is a pretty big body. It is 25, and then it just kind of changes all your opponent's monsters to defense, which if they're linked monsters, it doesn't matter. But you guys still play 1 of it just to have the ability to go into Crystron Phoenix. Moving on to the big guys, 1 Crystron Phoenix. For you guys who don't know, well, I guess I should say this, they all float. So if any of these guys are destroyed, they have the ability to summon any well, let's see here. I think Emistrix and Quandrax require you to summon a non-synchro Crystron monster from your graveyard, but Phoenix and Hieron Quandrax can summon anything. But Phoenix here, when this card is synchro summon, it banishes all spell and traps on the field. So most of the time, you are synchroing for this, and then you have Quandax up here, because you're able to make like Lanfrenigus or Mistar Boy and put here, and then summon the Emistrix, and then you would just have the ability to put this here. Essentially, you can also make this, I think, you can also make this the old-fashioned way, which is where you just have 2 5s and you make in this. But essentially, you use Quandax to synchro these 2 into Phoenix, banish everything. It's great against back row decks that just set things, like even against Salamangreats, they set Rage Roar, whatever you do, you summon this, get rid of everything, and then they don't have Rage or Roar anymore because they're banished. You can just start plowing and beating into them. But you play 1 of it because, like, it's not the best one in my opinion, but you still want to have access to it, and it's pretty easy to access. It's the easier one to summon out of the 2 level 9s that we have. And then we're playing 2 Hieron Quandrax. I don't know if 2 is correct. 2 is the number that I like. I just would rather I've gone into 2 multiple times just because it's floating ability. Its effect is that when it's summoned, you can banish 3 cards from the field or graveyard, 3 monster cards from the field or graveyard, and then if it's destroyed, it floats out of any banished monster. So essentially, if they have like a big ship or a big monster, I said big ship because we've been talking Cosmos lately, you can banish that big monster and then crash into another big monster. When this is destroyed, summon back their big monster. It doesn't require what banish zone it's into, but it's essentially the deck's themed Trishula, and you have to like know particular combos to get to it now, but once we get Halifibrex and Heal Fiber, it becomes like immediately we get the ability to go into this every turn, which is awesome. And it's just like you combo this off with Starlight Junction here, like you just have the ability to like remove 4 cards from your opponent's field, which sometimes at the perfect moment is all it takes. So the deck really requires you to be a skillful player, which I am working on learning it because it's definitely a hard deck to play. But for level 6s, 1 Coral, 1 Inzektron. Inzektron just allows you to make it because it's a machine. Coral Dragon's in here particularly for the Undying combo. You end up like making Link Spider, use Link Spider to summon the controller, synchro Undying and controller for Coral, and then synchro Coral and the Link Spider into Lamphrenicus, but once we get Halifibrax, that becomes like Halifibrax, and you get to draw off Coral Dragon, which is really good. Outside of that combo, the ability to make it, we have the ability to destroy cards, spot removal. And Zekatron's just really good because it's a machine that you can go into without extra steps. You can use like Rion to get out the Thiswervin, the Smiger from the banish and go into it, and then it can't be destroyed by battle or card effects, and then you take no battle damage. But it's a machine that we can just go into without having to have Quandax out, which is good. It requires that extra resource. And playing against certain OTK strategies, such as Crusadia, Mathmech, Mermail Lanteans, for that one turn you pop this out, you don't take any damage. It's really good. For level 7s, Black Rose, Moonlight. Black Rose, I mean, this is one of the reasons this deck is famous, is simply because, like, at the bare minimum, when your opponent's, like, at the prime point of their combo, you use Quandax to Black Rose everything, and then they lose, or they have to restart over. Moonlight is just another synchro option to go into outside of Black Rose, because, like I said, in conjunction with Starlight Junction, in junction with Starlight Junction, when you use Quandax plus any level 3 to summon out Moonlight, Moonlight will bounce, and then Starlight Junction will also bounce, so you remove 2 cards with just simply Moonlight. For one of the other level 9s, we play 1 Trishula Dragon the Ice Barrier, just because we have the ability to make it if we don't go through Quandax, but sometimes, like, in a simplified game state, when your opponent only has, like, 1 card in hand, and they, like, are trying to combo off with the 1 card in hand, they have 1 card on the field, like, you just make Trishula on your opponent's turn and get rid of it all and banish, like, just banish stuff. It's really good. Yeah. Finally, for the links, 1 Link Spider, 1 Lamphrenicus, and 1 Mistar Boy. You sometimes are able to make this, which allows your guys to get really beefy. It allows the deck to be kind of push for aggressive plays and power pushes, but really, like, the deck, it is not really, you're not going to OTK your opponent. You're going to smack them for a little bit, reset up to disrupt them on their next turn, smack them for a little bit. So Mistar Boy is just here for reincursion and the ability to make your Crystrons a little bit beefier. Lamphrenicus is just a generic link to go into when we do the Undying play, since we don't have Halifibrax, and Link Spider is for that said combo that I just explained. Do note that once we do get Halifibrax, these 2 will be coming out for Halifibrax. I don't know if you need 3 Halifibrax. I've not been able to test with it. Not a lot of people are testing Crystrons with Halifibrax, even though, like, I understand that Halifibrax breaks a lot of other decks, but it busts this deck open to its full potential, which I don't think a lot of people care. But they're just trying. It's definitely going to be interesting. I don't know if you need 3 or not. Like I said, if you're a veteran Crystron player, let me know. But yeah, guys, this has been my Crystron deck profile. Stay tuned for a dual video with it. Any comments, concerns, type below. I always try to get back to you guys as soon as I can. Use our codes to get discounts. Anything you do goes towards the channel, which goes towards me, which allows me to put it back to you guys later on. So this has been Charles from Team COG, signing out.